Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I am TRACY CRAM PERKINS and our show today is Dementia Home Care. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. I am a 4-time dementia caregiving survivor and the author of Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After, which is now available in audio. Today's guest would be Allison Schreier, president and co-founder of Zinnia TV. She cared for her husband, Evan, through his journey with frontotemporal dementia. And that is what we're going to be talking about today, but Allison seems to be running late. And so joining me is Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK, who happens to be my producer, but also she cared for her mother through her dementia journey, and we're going to be talking about that. So welcome, Dr. Jacalyn.
Hi, Tracy. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's been forever since you've been in front of the camera in my show. I'm just so excited you're here.
I know we started doing this way back. I guess it was 4 years ago. Or more. Who knows?
It's been a while. I mean, it really has been. So for the audience who may not know you, and I say that in air quotes, could you tell us a little bit about your dementia journey?
Yes, for sure. So my mother had dementia and she started acting differently during the pandemic. And it was actually in 2020, the last time I saw her before we were in a lockdown in New Jersey was the last week of February in 2020. And then she was by herself until May when I could go and see her again. And there was a dramatic change. So it ended up in September of 2020, I moved in with her full time to take care of her. And of course, that was very life-changing. I just retired from my corporate career and I thought I was going to be doing a lot of things, which I ended up not doing, but I'm doing this. So it was quite a journey. So I'll stop there.
Oh, well, okay. The pandemic took a lot of lives and changed them dramatically. And especially for dementia, that it takes everybody downhill faster than you can say, I don't know what, but Rumpelstiltskin. But anyway, what impressed me when we were talking was that you moved in with your mom, you had retired, you gave up everything, and you started caring for her. What was that like?
It's interesting, Tracy, now that I look back on it, because you and I communicated a lot through that. You were really helpful to me. She was my best friend, and seeing her in that kind of decline and not being prepared for it. I don't have any children. So it was really kind of the first time I was taking care of someone else. I had 3 dogs at one point altogether, but I was kind of angry through a lot of it because I kept thinking, why don't you stop doing this? Like, why don't you know what I'm talking about? And I think there was that sense of denial. And yet at the same time, there was that overwhelming feeling of pressure that I'm now responsible for someone who's a grown adult. And at the same time, losing my best friend. So it was really kind of a mix of emotions.
So how did you deal with that grief? I mean, that's a lot to take on all at once.
Yeah, it was. But honestly, your book helped me tremendously. And I'm not saying that as a paid spokesperson. I'm saying that it really did help me. And you and I had a number of conversations with
Mhm.
which also helped. But I found myself talking to her about it. And why I did that, I really don't know. Like I wouldn't do that again. But I was like, Mom, do you realize you have dementia? Do you realize what's going on with you? But I think the way that I really got through it was through my workouts. I do something called solid core, again, not a paid spokesperson, but they have this thing with they have the lights really low and there are blue lights around the bottom of the space, and then they have really loud music. And sometimes I would just cry because I was
Oh.
like, oh, what am I supposed to do? But it was definitely a time that was very isolating.
Well, okay, that's a very impressive way for you to actually give yourself permission to cry. Most people don't think of something like that. I mean, that's it. I'm very I'm very proud of you because that's, most of the time we're screaming, we're yelling, we're really angry, and you actually gave yourself permission to release that while you were exercising. I I know exercise saved me because I was running at the time I was taking care of my dad. I was running between 6 and 8 miles every, weekend just to get
Yeah.
out of my system. And it's just taking that time to have respite. I don't think a lot of people give themselves permission to have respite. And you did. And I know it had other benefits for you. But I guess what else did you or didn't you do with your respite? I mean, did you do other things besides just going to solid core?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I went to the gym and of course I prayed a lot and I did meditation. But the other thing that was kind of cool was that I started this business and my mom was really interested in it. It was like having an audience of one. And so I would put our TV shows up on the big screen TV and we would sit and watch it and she would give her feedback and she'd be like, that was really interesting, Jacalyn. That was really. So we actually did a lot of fun things together. And I would go and take her to get her hair cut, and of course she hated that, but it was fun. And then we would talk about, so we kind of had like a lot of girl talk as well. So even though she was going through that and I was going through my thing, we were still able to come together and have some fun.
So how did she start forgetting you while she was living with you?
No.
No? Good. Okay. You didn't have to go through that.
No.
You were very blessed. You were very
Oh, I
blessed that
can
you didn't
start to
have to go
cry.
through that. I'm sorry,
No, I
but
didn't go through that.
yeah, I am very happy that you didn't go through that because especially with how close you were to your mom. I mean, because you and I talked about this quite a bit. Well, okay, I'm going to change the subject just a little bit so we can give you time to relax here. But
Thank
um,
you.
let's talk about wandering.
Mm.
Your mom, there was one time when you were filming and your mom left the building, shall we say, and you found out she was somewhere. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were in Florida at the time because we spent part of the time in Florida and part of the time in New Jersey. So we were in Florida and I was producing a show. And I think I was also hosting the show, actually. It was one of our UK shows. And my mom had one of those, what are the things you put in the shoe?
A GPS
The
tracker?
tags,
Yeah, the air tags.
the air tags.
Mhm.
So she had an air tag that was in her shoe and she wanted to go out for a walk. She was always a hardcore walker. She could walk really fast and I could never keep up with her. So I really didn't like her going out for walks, but she promised she'd stay in the neighborhood. So in this specific day, I didn't even know she was going out for a walk. And I had a big sign on the front door on the inside, do not leave the house. But she left the house and I didn't hear her because I was in the
Mhm.
studio. And so I kept getting these text messages. And as you know, when you're on camera, it's very hard to look at your phone. But finally, I just spotlighted one of the guests and I looked at the phone and it was a neighbor. And the neighbor said that my mom was walking on Military Trail close to I-95. And I was like, and here I am producing the show and hosting the show, and my mother is out somewhere. And she had lost her hearing in one of her ears. So you could call on the phone and there's no way she's going to hear. So of course I start calling on the phone, and so I had to actually just shut the show down. I said, I can't do it. So I got in my car and I start driving from our house down towards where I think she would go, but she's never walked this way before. And I really was in a state of panic. I mean, I was actually terrified. And I kept saying to myself, it's okay, you'll find her, you'll find her. And I saw like way down on the other side of this huge road. I think it was Camino Real. I saw her. And so when I went, I had to do a U-turn and go and get her. And of course, I wanted to start screaming like a maniac, like, what are you doing? But I was like, I looked at her and she was terrified. And for my mother to be scared, she had no water and she had already walked what I estimate to be 5 miles. And it was like 85 degrees.
Oh.
So that was really terrifying.
So when you got her back, did she have the air tags in her shoes at that point?
No,
Or you got those later?
she had taken it out and I don't know where it was. Because and I
Oh.
did ask her about it later and she said, I don't need those things in my shoes. I know where I am. So I was like, okay, you're right.
Okay, okay. Yeah, there are people that just are determined not to have the air tags.
Maybe it's asserting that sense of independence, because knowing that everything's taken from you, you can't drive, you can't do this, you can't do that. Maybe that's a way of saying, hey, you know what? I can make some decisions.
And now they also have it in jewelry so that you can
Mhm.
wear necklaces or bracelets for those people that might find this more easy to more palatable, basically. But yeah, it's we don't realize how much we tell somebody with dementia no. And they've lived their whole life as an autonomous adult, and part of that feeling of being told no, 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 like we're a child, is very difficult to deal with. And so it it's easier if we do something like yes and, so the improv method, to get people to be able to. It's great for devices for when you need to distract somebody or redirect them, because I know that when I was taking care of my father, there were times when he would insist he was needing to go someplace and I had to redirect him. Most of the time he was really easy and amenable and easygoing, but there were times when he would panic, he would need to get out of there, he thought we were going to war. It's important to be able to get into their shoes. But I've noticed that when there was the I'm going home situation, if I would have known at the time to say yes and let's go get you packed, it would have been much easier to distract him than what I did at the time, which was a mistake. And I told him he was home and realized that was not what I should have said. But there are ways we can talk to people and actually get them through to a place of safety and comfort and realize that whatever the need is, it's actually being met. Which saying yes and saying, and doesn't that shirt that you're packing look lovely, and tell me about that photo you're packing, and whatever it is that you're doing, it just makes it a little easier for people to redirect that person without telling them no. So Dr. Jacalyn, my questions now. Are you recovered enough, or do you want me to talk
Yes,
more?
no, I'm
Okay.
good. I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
But no, that's not fair. But when you were taking care of your mom and you were watching television with her, you said she was able to give you feedback on that. So what kind of feedback was she giving you?
Well, one thing that I remember that she said, we were watching one of the UK shows and she said, I can't understand a darn thing that they're saying. Because she couldn't understand their accent, which I thought was really funny. So sometimes she would say, oh, you look very pretty there, or I like the way you were holding your head in that picture, or that was interesting what she said or what he said. Like, she really got a kick out of it. And the fact that she always knew it was me and that she saw me on the TV screen was really cool.
That is so cool. So now your mom painted, is that correct?
Yes. So someone I was friends with suggested that we get some paint by numbers. And I mentioned it to my mother, and she said, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. I did that when I was a little girl. So my sister went ahead and ordered some and had them sent to the house. And so my mom looked at them and she said, I'm not doing this. And then she picked one of them up and we opened the box and she sat down, Tracy. When I tell you, I am not exaggerating, she sat at that kitchen table for at least 8 hours. She never went to the bathroom. She would just ask for a soda and she just kept painting. And the interesting thing is, which we didn't know at the time, we found out later, she actually had lost her vision in one eye. So she was blind in one eye and she was deaf in one ear. And that's a whole other story about the vision. But she sat there and painted. And by the time she passed away, I would say she painted 50, 60, 70 paintings. And so I had the wherewithal, like we had them in the house, like hung up in different places, and I had the wherewithal to ask her to sign some of them. And so now I'm currently traveling, but at home, I actually have a number of them that are framed, that are hanging in my home, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that is so cool. And the fact that you were able to give her something that she loved so much that she could do that for 8 hours is wonderful. Oh my God. And what a great
She was
memory.
like obsessed with it. She'd get up first thing in the morning and she'd beeline to the kitchen table. And I found, and to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever admitted this. There was part of me at some time that felt kind of resentful because we used to sit and have these conversations. Like when I wasn't working in the morning, first thing in the morning, we'd sit and chat. And then at the end of the day, we'd chat. And she was really consumed with the painting. And I felt like, okay, now I just lost her totally. But at the same time, it was really good that she had something to do that she really enjoyed. And she was really good at it. And the funny thing is, Tracy, people will see the paintings, they'll be, wow, I love that artwork. Where did you get it? Like my mother painted. And they thought she's like, Picasso or something. And so I don't even say sometimes it's paint by numbers, but she was really good at it.
That's okay. That is cool because now you have these keepsakes that every time you look at it, you remember that moment when your mom was painting it. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not like, walking into a gallery and going, "Oh my God, that's so gorgeous. How did they do that?" You actually were there. And
Yes.
that's what a cool memory. What a really cool
And
memory.
I would really just suggest that to anyone whose family member is going through this. The painting, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's cathartic, but maybe it's also that sense of accomplishment. You see the work progress. And then, as I mentioned, we had them hanging on the walls, and she would just look at it and she would smile and she'd say, "That's my favorite one." And then the next day she'd say a different one was her favorite one. And "What one do you like?" And so it was fun.
Oh, that's so cool. So, while you were living with her, what kind of issues were you having, that you weren't expecting?
Showering. Showering was a huge one. And you know what? Until I spoke to you, I had no idea what it was that she was going through. But
Mhm.
I would say to her mother, my mom was a very beautiful woman and she always took care of herself. And by the way, during the pandemic, she let her hair grow like down to here. She would not get her hair cuts. And I was just like, taking pictures of her, and I would show her and I'd say, "Mom, do you see what your hair looks like? Let's go and get it cut." I am not getting it cut. I like my hair. I want to have a ponytail. She was always talking about the ponytail. And I'd say, "Mom, I think that ponytails are great, but I don't want to be judgmental, but I think we both missed the mark on the ponytail stage." But so no, and she did not want to shower. And I would get her to shower maybe every third day or so, and she was very, very angry about it. And so I didn't understand what was going on, but you explained it to me.
So for people in the audience that are having issues with their family member, there's a lot of different variables with showering that can happen. Uh, Part of it is that they don't remember they didn't already shower. So it's part of time and place. They don't understand where they are in time and place, and they think they've already showered. Another one can be that it is painful for them to shower if the water pressure is too hard. There's a when you're aging, your skin thins, and so do the caps on the ends of your nerves. And so, what might feel good to us could be very painful to the person with the tissue paper skin, that it feels like it's beating them and can cause bruising. Also, the water temperature doesn't feel the same as it did for us. And then here's another thing to think about. When you're looking around that bathroom, is there anything that might look like a hole? If you've got something that's on the floor or in the tub that is black or navy blue or dark brown, and there's low lighting in the bathroom, somebody doesn't want to fall into a hole. So there's a lot of different variables that can go into bathing. Also, routine is hugely important when you are caring for someone. If you can take the time to develop a routine and remind them at certain variables that we're taking our shower on this date, and then remind them that it's that day, it's also very helpful. And our guest, who is hopefully will join us sometime today or another episode, um, one of the things that what they do at Zinnia TV is they have television programs that normalize drinking fluids, bathing. If they see somebody else doing it, they'll go, "Oh, I can do that too. So there are many different things you can do to help someone get over the fear of bathing or the anger. Also, dignity is hugely important. If they don't want to be seen naked, you can do things like wrap them in a towel and bathe them underneath the towel. There is dignity wear from the Dignity Resource Council that they can bathe under. It's terry cloth towels that are designed for wearing in the shower. There are men and women's styles. So there's a lot of different things that can go into bathing. And then also making the bathroom look like a bathroom, not like a medical center. So those are just a few tips. So Dr. Jacalyn,
Yes.
let's talk about a couple other things. So you had an episode with your mom taking off walking. We talked about bathing. Did you have issues with her going to the restroom?
No, I don't think there were issues with the restroom per se, but I think as things started to change, it actually was 3.5 years, and then she ended up with a cancer diagnosis out of nowhere. But I think during those 3.5 years, just watching what changes in terms of socialization, and actually, my mom played competitive tennis, and she was on the Delray Beach tennis team, and even at 80, she could go out there and really crush some people. She had this wicked two-handed backhand. And just to watch that she couldn't play tennis anymore, and she wasn't socializing with women and going out and doing all these things, she spent her time with the painting, and then she also spent her time reading. And what I found was there wasn't much else that I was able to get her to do. So that was kind of also eye-opening, that suggestions, hey, why don't we go over to this place or that place? And what I realized, and you helped me realize this as well, is that the places I wanted to take her to, like restaurants, she was definitely a foodie, it was loud.
Mhm.
And there was so much noise and so many people, and I didn't understand that. So for a person who loved to dine out, now not wanting to go out and eat, that was really a challenge.
And we also see this a lot with people with FTD, and a lot of people don't recognize this, is that too much sound, it can be so overwhelming. With brain diseases, the hearing starts to develop, your ears start to develop tinnitus. And the more the brain disease progresses, the worse the tinnitus becomes. So it slows down the process of us understanding what we're hearing. And if there's too many noises that go with that, we can't hear it or understand it at all. So I could see, why your mom was not wanting to go out to restaurants, because it would become more and more confusing, and it would feel like, she's being battered about the head with sound.
Yes.
Yeah, a very, very tough thing to deal with.
It's very tough. But one of the great lessons that I learned from going through this whole thing, which, by the way, I know you went through it 4 times. I hope I don't go through it again. It really is debilitating and exhausting being a caregiver. But one of the things that I will always remember is that I would say to my mom every day, Mom, how are you doing today? I'm just grateful to be alive. And I used to say to her, is that all you have? Like, there's nothing else. Like, to me, that seems like the bare minimum. Of course, you wake up, and now I get it. You know what I mean? Every day is a gift, but I didn't really get it then.
We can still learn from them as they're going. It's
Very
it's
true.
really it's really amazing. My dad taught me all the way up to the very end. It was one of those things where it was, for me, it was a very humbling lesson, because I was close to my dad, and it was very hard for me not, when we had to transition from child to peer to me being kind of his caregiver parent. And that was, it's a hard arc to go through. And not everyone gets that gift, though, because it is a gift. You get to see them through stages that of vulnerability you would have never imagined. And I know in my head, it took me a long time for me to adjust that my dad wasn't the guy I knew when I was a teenager, when I last lived with him. And it was a really difficult transition to give myself permission. And once I did, and it was only because my husband pointed out, but once I did, I was actually able to have a much better relationship with my dad. We could sit down and laugh, and we could do things together that I would have missed out on if I hadn't crossed that bridge. But it took me about 18 months to figure that out before we actually had what I would call a much better relationship, and where we weren't arguing or nitpicking, because we also have the same personalities. So it was a very, very eye-opening experience, and he taught me, like I said, up to the very end. So
Yeah, I would
yes.
say that there are always blessings, there's always lessons. And the thing for me that I still sometimes I just shake my head. Yesterday was our 4-year anniversary at USA Global TV and Radio, and I would not have had the opportunity to even start this platform if it weren't for the fact that I was taking care of my mother. And it just amazes me how, because you're in one situation, another situation comes out of it. So I am grateful for that. Otherwise, I had just retired and I had a completely different plans of what I was going to do. But because my mom, I had to keep her in the house, basically. I didn't want her wandering off. And it was the pandemic. I needed something to do where I could be in the house. And lo and behold, I went from having a radio show to a TV show to now we're in 60 countries and the rest of the story. So I am grateful that I was able to care for her and also start this.
Well, and I am grateful to you because I would not be here today if you guys hadn't reached out to me. I mean, if Kathy hadn't reached out when you guys were doing Aging Gracefully with Humor, I would not have the opportunity to be on this platform today. And for that, I am very grateful.
Isn't it amazing, Tracy, how things work?
It's just, yeah, it's weird how things work out. I mean, I think about it now. Well, I was asking you this morning if I could, count it as 4 years because I'd been a guest for so many episodes until I actually had my own show. So I felt like I was hogging airtime.
It's like, I know not everyone believes in the universe, but if you think about it, how could all these things actually happen? It's sort of like a domino effect. And so I'm very grateful for that I had the opportunity. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. But at the same time, I remember I would go for walks. We had this big walking path that was in the community where we were. It was about 2 miles. And I would just walk and I'd actually talk to myself out loud. And I'd be like, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I think I'm making a lot of mistakes. I feel useless. I feel weak because I felt like I wanted to fix her. I wanted to make her better. Like I didn't want to believe what was actually happening. And every day thinking, maybe today she'll remember this or that, but that's not how it goes. And I think that when you, at least for me, going from that stage of denial to actually accepting it and then going into full caregiver mode instead of like still straddling the line between daughter and caregiver, because you mentioned about the last time you had lived with your dad. I spent a lot of time living with my mother. And after my dad died in 2012, I moved in with my mother for a year and make sure she was okay. And then I was traveling to see her every 3 weeks. So she really was my best friend. I used to take her on trips with me. We used to go to galas together, all of these things. And so it was really, really a difficult time.
And the fact that you, as you mentioned before, you were able to launch something else, which probably helped you keep your sanity. I mean, it probably helped you keep your sanity. So you had, in essence, she helped you create something also that is now a gift to people all over the world. And how would that have happened if you hadn't taken care of her?
It wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have, because I would have been down some other path, which is so amazing. And I used to say to her mother, before she started really declining, I would say, Mother, would you be a guest on a show? And she's like, I'm not going to be a guest. I'm not going to be on TV. But a lot of times she was there in the background. She might be downstairs painting and I was upstairs in the studio broadcasting, and I could hear her making like little comments like, way to go. Or, so it really was an amazing experience. Because if you think of it, 2 people locked in a house because of the pandemic, and one going through one thing and one starting something and taking care of it. It really was a beautiful bonding experience.
And the fact that you guys could walk that together, even as she was declining, it's what a great memory. And
Yes.
I really think that's one of the things that a lot of us miss out on is we don't give ourselves permission to enjoy.
That's true. Because there's a lot of guilt.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tremendous amount of guilt. And then the other thing is that no one can really understand what you, the caregiver, are going through because they're not going through it themselves. And other people might be caregivers in different ways. But when you're on the front line, so to speak, there's just so many emotions that come up. As I mentioned, being honest, anger, frustration, just putting your hands up in the air and going, I don't know what to do. And then trying to have conversations. And by the way, you really helped me with this. When I was cooking dinner, and I'd say, Mom, would you like to have this, or this? And then you said to me, she's only going to remember the last one. And it would always be like, well, I'll have this, then I'll have that, then I'll have this, and I'll have that. And one time we went out for Mother's Day, I think it was, we went out to a very well-known restaurant chain, and she proceeded to order 4 appetizers, 2 entrees, and she's telling the waiter, and I'm just like, no, no, you're not having all of this. And so I was like looking at the waiter, and finally I got up from the table, and she was like, Jacalyn, where are you going? So I said, you know what? We'll just get all that food. So we got all the food, and it came, and she didn't eat any of it. She's like, what is this? So it was a complete and total waste of money. But in that moment, I felt so helpless because I didn't want to embarrass her. And at the same time, I knew we were going to be spending all this money that she wasn't going to eat the food, but I didn't know what to do. So I still don't know what I would have done better in that situation, but it is frustrating.
Well, I actually, you did the right choice. I mean, you honored her wishes, even though she didn't hold on to the memory of it. So, and yes, you had experience, but it's very memorable. I mean, if you
Yeah.
think
And,
about
and
it,
we
that's
did have leftovers. So there.
you have to cook for a few days.
Exactly.
Silver lining.
Yay, bonus.
Well, you never know. I mean, I would take my dad swimming at the YMCA because I knew he loved to exercise, and he ended up being in a I don't remember what they call it, silver
Silver shoes,
silver, yes, that's what silver shoes. Okay,
shoes.
but he did the aqua class, and I would swim laps because he needed to have the socialization. And so it was like there were 3 gentlemen in the class and there were 25 ladies. So everyone, my dad was very gregarious. He loved all the attention, and he was just surrounded by women who were helping him.
What a nice way to, yeah, that's terrific.
And he soaked it up, and I didn't want to be in the way of that. So I went and swam laps while he did his little exercise. And if he couldn't remember what to do, when the ladies would just hand him something and away they'd go. It was really
That's
cool.
a beautiful memory. The fact that you did that together is really nice. It brings up a memory that I had, which is that my mom spent a lot of time at the beach, when she was growing up. And I think she had some nice memories about the beach. And so we would be sitting at the kitchen table in Florida, and she would look out the window and she would start talking about the ocean, and there was no ocean in front of where we lived. And I look outside and I'm thinking, and so I'm like, Mom, there's no ocean outside. And she'd say, oh, I can see the boardwalk from here. And so finally, this would happen. I would get really angry, and I'd say, there is no ocean outside. There's no boardwalk. First of all, if there were an ocean outside, there wouldn't be a boardwalk because that's not in South Florida where we were. But I never understood what that was. I guess it was just living in the past. I don't know.
Well, whether it was her living in the past or something that she was, it could have been a hallucination for all that matters, or a delusion, doesn't matter. She was enjoying it. For anybody going forward that's hearing us talk about this, that's one of those ones where it would have been easier on you emotionally had you been able to step in and enjoy it with her. That's where a lot of us derail, because I was constantly correcting my dad. And again, it took me 18 months to figure out not to do that, but to step into it with him and role play. And it made it so much easier when I did that, because then I had some great memories. We could laugh. You at the boardwalk, you could have been, asking her, well, what is your favorite part of what you're seeing out there? And you could have had this amazing fantasy memory of what was going on, because they don't see what we see, and their brain might take them to something that makes it feel very, very real. And so walking them through to a place of safety, if it's scary, or just joining them where they are and having a wonderful moment, it takes us giving ourselves permission and letting go. And that, to me, was very, very difficult. But I could see my husband do it, and I could finally model that behavior. And then for me, again, as I said, it made it much easier to go along with my dad. But then it also helped me figure out when he really was hallucinating something that was terrifying. I could get there with him, role play with him, and follow it through to a logical conclusion where I could get him back to calm. So it is one of those things that it is helpful if you can do that, because we are the place of safety for somebody that we're caring for, that we love. They know we love them. They look to us as an anchor, and us carrying all that anger and grief, it's not their fault that they have a brain disease, but it's also our fault and I shouldn't say fault, it's our choice to grieve at them or to join them where they are. And when we give ourselves permission to take that first step towards joining them, it makes the caregiving easier. And Do not beat yourself up if you are having trouble crossing that bridge. It is totally natural. It's normal. We all do it. We all remember how much we love that person, and having that ripped out of us because they are going a different direction that we can't follow, it is not easy to navigate. So that's why we are talking about the guilt, because the guilt goes with us hand in hand. And it's something that we can let go of, but we don't necessarily have the skill set to know how. And this is one of the ways you can do it, is joining them where they are.
Yeah, I love that, Tracy. Thanks for sharing that. And I think what I would add that I've learned since my mother passed away, and I learned it through business, through people who took my money and didn't deliver, but they left me with this message, and it really resonates, which is keep the emotion in check and find the solution. And I think if I had known that knowledge, I call it my $32,000 lesson. If I had known that knowledge, then I could have applied it to that. And I think that would have helped a lot. Because I think there are times when we are capable of saying, okay, I'm switching from this role to that role. Because as a caregiver, yes, I was the daughter, but she really needed the caregiver more in certain aspects. But from the daughter perspective, I think a really cool memory that I also have is she used to say that she and I were a couple. And I'd say, Mom, what does that mean? And she's like, we're a couple. You and I are together. We're a couple. And I remember thinking how ridiculous it sounded. But now it's like, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. We were a couple.
Yeah, a couple of really close friends.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And what a cool memory. I mean, we spend so much time regretting stuff because we didn't live in the present. And a lot of time we're so busy thinking about the future or the past that we're missing out on what's happening in front of us right now. And I was having an interesting conversation with somebody last week about living in the present and how much you can gain from living in the present versus worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. That doesn't mean you don't plan, but just, enjoying what's happening to you at that moment. And I just thought, I need to learn how to embrace that.
No, I do agree with that. And I know a lot of people who live in the past.
Mhm.
And I don't. And I used to be a planner. I had plans, for the next year or 2 years. And in fact, it's kind of interesting. Just a quick digression. I'm taking this course at Wharton, Chief Strategy Officer. And one of the questions we were asked was, how far in advance do you have a business plan? Do you have 5 years, 10 years? When I was in corporate, we had to have a plan for 5 years. But being in the media industry and things that are changing so quickly with fast channels and with AI, it's 6 months. And so today I'm not looking 10 years out because I might not even be here 10 years out, but I've made sure that everything's going to be running without me. But I think you're right. We have to enjoy the moment. Like you and I are enjoying this moment right now. We're not focused on anything else. And I think that is where we miss out sometimes, just as the human collective, is that we are not putting our head where our feet are and enjoying the moment.
And it is so true. And I shouldn't say I'm surprised. I did not know about the 6 months. And it seems like that'll probably get shorter as
Yeah.
AI progresses. Yeah. That
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, that's kind of scary. I can't believe it. We've got 3 minutes left. We've got 2 minutes left. It's just like it went that fast.
Well, we've always had really good conversations together. So we miss you, Allison. We're sorry that you weren't here today, but we had a good time.
And Allison, I will reach out and touch base with you later.
Fantastic.
Well, do you have any last words of wisdom before I sign us off?
Yes, I do. I just want to share a couple of things. I have a new book coming out, which is called Stop Giving Away Your Value, Boundaries, Pricing, and the Business of Respect. And I think this is really for anyone and everyone who's in business and even in personal relationships. We give ourselves away for free because we don't think that we are worth it, whatever it is that we're doing. So that is combined with the new course, which is surprisingly Stop Giving Away Your Value, which is a 6-week professional course. And of course, lastly, I just want to thank you, Tracy, and everyone else that we are celebrating 4 years. And our reunion show is next Sunday. So we'll be streaming for about 5 hours. So please do join us. And Tracy, thanks for having me today.
Well, Thank you so much for stepping in and joining me today. It was so fun. We haven't talked in a long time like this.
It was a lot of fun, and it's good to go and just, celebrate my mother and just honor her again.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to sign off now, but we'll be back on February 17th with Pam Nolte, Rob Martin, and the players from the Seattle's Taproot Theater for a demonstration of Zimprov, an improvisation class for those in the early stages of dementia, on the next episode of the Dementia Home Care Show. In the meantime, you can go over to our YouTube channels on USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK and look for the Dementia Home Care playlist, where you will find all of our past episodes. And I would like to thank the wonderful Dr. Jacalyn for joining me today and all of her hard work in front of the camera. So we'll see you all next time, everybody.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents TRACY CRAM PERKINS, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care: How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who is going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TRACYCRAMPERKINS.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? In a world quick to judge, one book dares to reveal the hidden cost of silence. Discover holy but harmful, the silent sin of judgment, how hidden judgments destroy relationships and damage lives, by Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. The Amazon #1 bestseller that's transforming the way we understand ourselves and the way we see others. Pick up the companion workbook to uncover your own hidden judgments and learn how to break free from them. Available now on Amazon and at fine bookstores worldwide.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA-Global-TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning, and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.